Hey guys, Mr.B here. So today I've got a 2009 Jeep Patriot, and I'm going to use this as a generic video to show you guys how to change out and replace a vehicle's battery. So over time, batteries do wear down. They typically only last about 5 to 7 years in most cases. You could load test a battery. Your local parts stores will load test them for free. Right now it's really cold. It's winter time and this vehicle actually died going down the road, so I suspect that it could possibly have a bad alternator as well. But we weren't able to jump the battery, and we had to tow it because the battery won't take a charge. It is 7 years old, so the way you know, this one's the new one, but the way that you know is there's a date code on the side. That is the build date for the battery. So this battery obviously is a new one. It was built in or manufactured in February of 2023. And then there is also some information on the label, like cold cranking amps. That's an important one, especially in areas where the weather is very cold, where it snows. So you got to make sure you get the right battery for your vehicle. You've got your positive terminal and your negative terminal. And you want to make sure they're orientated in the right spot. Some batteries are side posts, some are top posts, and sometimes these terminals can be flipped on either end. So you want to make sure you get the right battery. If you go to your local parts stores, they'll be able to find the right battery for you. But on this vehicle, in order to gain access to it, you just take this plastic piece out of here. And then, so this is the old battery, and this one is from 2018, so it's about 7 years old, 6 or 7 years old, and it won't take a charge, so it's time to replace it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my negative clamp first. That negative clamp is the safest one to disconnect first because it won't arc out on anything. If you take the positive loose first and it arcs out on anything solid metal, then you'll have sparks, and that could be dangerous, and we don't want that to happen. So on this vehicle, all I had to do is loosen up that nut for my battery clamps. If the battery terminals were super corroded and had like green fuzzy acid all over them, you could clean it off with a baking soda and water solution, or you could just get a good old-fashioned can of Coca-Cola, dump that on there. It will neutralize the battery acid so that you can safely work on and around the battery while you're taking it out. All right, so now that I've got those terminal clamps off, I'm going to go ahead and take loose the hold down bolt. So that bolt way down in there bolts down a rubber block which holds the battery in place. That's the hold down to keep the battery from moving around when you're driving down the road. So I'm just going to get an extension and a socket and take that loose so I can get the battery out. All right, so this bolt for the hold down is seized in place and it doesn't want to come loose easily. So some of the tricks that I've learned over the years is to just work it back and forth. That way you can break the rust loose, because if I just throw a whole bunch of body weight into it, I might end up actually breaking the bolt off in the hole that it threads into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen it a little bit until it feels tight like that. And then I'm going to flip my ratchet the other way and actually thread it back in a little bit to break the rust loose, so that I hopefully don't break this bolt off. All right, so there's the bolt. And there's that little rubber block that holds the battery into the tray. And then when you take the battery out, you just want to be careful not to drop it. If you drop it and it cracks, you'll get liquid sulfuric acid all over the place. It's nasty stuff. It'll eat away your clothes and your skin. So just be gentle with it as you're taking it out. Try not to drop it as well. And then this sleeve, this is just like an insulated liner. I'm gonna go ahead and put that back on the new battery. Definitely want to try and reuse that if you can. All right, so what I'm gonna do before I put the new battery in is I'm gonna clean up these cables here. This is a battery terminal cleaner. You can buy these at the parts stores for pretty cheap. No, this is not a Chinese finger trap. This part here is actually for cleaning the tops of the battery, the terminals of the battery. And then that part there, that wire brush, is for cleaning the inside of the cables. You want to make sure that you have a good, clean, tight connection around that new battery. Otherwise, you'll have voltage drop, you'll have issues later on down the road. And we want to make sure we have good, clean, tight connections. Otherwise, you'll have a whole bunch of different electrical problems that you don't want to have after replacing a vehicle's battery. Now, the other thing too is when you're putting the battery in, or really anytime you're working on a car, you want to be mindful not to leave tools on top of the battery, because if my metal, any of my metal tools, a wrench, a socket, extension, a ratchet, if anything arcs out between those two battery terminals, it will cause sparks, and it could cause excessive heat. It could literally weld the tool onto the battery, and it could get so hot that the battery eventually explodes, and we don't want that. So make sure you don't set any tools on top of the battery just to be safe. But I'm gonna go ahead and put my rubber block back into place down in here, get my hold down bolt tightened up, and then put my clamps back on. So when you go to tighten up this bolt, all you got to do is really just snug it up with your ratchet. Give it a little forearm strength until it's tight. Just like that, but you don't want to go too far, because if you go too far and really throw some weight into it, you could break the bolt off inside that hole. And of course, we don't want that. So once you get that hold down, tightened down, just give the battery a good shake. Make sure it's not moving, because we don't want it to bounce around going down the road. That one's nice and secure. It's not going anywhere. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start by tightening down my positive battery cable. The reason why I'm going to start with my positive battery cable is because if I hook up my negative and my positive battery cable touches anything solid ground, anything metal, the chassis, the body, anything like that, it can actually arc out just like putting a wrench across the terminals, and we don't want that. So safest way to do this is to start with your positive cable first. Do you have to put your positive cable on first? No, but it is the safest way to do it. So I'm going to wiggle this onto the terminal. And when you put the clamps onto the terminals, you want to make sure they go down as far as possible. You want this clamp to be as far down onto that terminal as possible, so that when I tighten this up, it actually clamps down on the terminal all the way, so that it doesn't come loose going down the road. So what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to take my 10mm wrench, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten up this clamp. You just want to snug this up until it feels tight. Right like that. Once you think that it's tight, just give it a wiggle. Try and pull it off. If you can pull it or wiggle it with your hand, it's too loose and you have to tighten it up some more. So that one's good and tight. Shake. It doesn't wiggle around, it doesn't pull off, so that one's nice and tight. And then on this vehicle, I do have a plastic shroud that covers it, so really my last step is to just take and put this plastic shroud over the battery. And I am missing, oh, never mind, that piece goes over top. Just twist into place to hold that down. So that's how you remove and install a battery on a 2009 Jeep Patriot, but also just a generic video on how to remove and install a battery. So if you guys found this video helpful, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Thanks.